have something that I'm going to say is unqualifiedly absolutely huge. And this might as well be an episode of Tool Time, so bring out the Binford 9000. I'm kidding. But what we are actually looking at is we're going to do some unboxing of some tools. We've been in contact with General, who sent us almost their entire ToolSmart line to take a look at. And we're going to spend some time unboxing these today and just getting some initial impressions. And then we're going to put some of these through their pace. Well, we're going to put all of these through their paces and do a proper review on everything as well. And when I said they sent everything, I mean we got everything except the IR thermometer that I think they're out of thanks to the current health crisis. So we've got a moisture meter, an inspection camera, a flashlight camera, a multimeter, which we're still working on the pocket meter as well, a laser distance measure, and an angle finder level combo. So let's go ahead and I guess start with one of the smaller items. We'll start with the laser distance measurement item. And while let's take a look here. So there's an app pair with tool. All of these have either Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connectivity for your phone. Alright, so 100-foot range, plus or minus 1/16 of an inch. Looks like these are Bluetooth 4 devices primarily, so it's got a pouch, a rich strap, comes with a screwdriver, some batteries, and a manual. Pretty typical retail packaging. Looks like this is cardboard, origami, like almost enclosure. Shows off the product well. Looks like it comes with a 1-year warranty in addition. So this is the laser distance measure. So we've got two-fold plastic for the primary packaging, a small pouch that comes with, well, that's not encouraging, came with a defective battery out of the box. I'm glad that didn't catch fire or anything. But that's not General's fault. This is going to be on Sanyo, who provided these. I'm going to just set that aside for now. So here's the manual, which I'm sure can be summed up as don't point the laser in your eye. TSO1, you can do lengths, perimeters, volumes, and overlay it on photos from your phone. Says it's splash-proof and dust-proof, IP54. Came with 2 AAA alkalines, which we're not going to touch. Holster, soft pouch with belt loops, small flathead screwdriver for opening battery compartment. Which the screwdriver is nothing spectacular, just a typical black plastic. Steel mold. So we've got a little itty bitty ruler that folds out from it, so that's a nifty feature. Do they intend for that to double as a stand as well? It doesn't say. Anyway, so looks like they use a little brass screw, which is a nice touch. Being brass, it's not going to be liable to rust or corrode compared to a steel screw. With it being IP54 rated, I'm sure it's going to get exposed to water. So let's see, we took the screw out. There we go. Stiff gaskets. All right, I'm going to find some batteries and I'll be right back. All right, so we've got some end loop batteries. And we're just going to install these per the instructions in the compartment. And then reinstall a little flathead screw. I'm glad to see that they paid attention to small details, like the screw being brass and including the screwdriver. Even if it's not a great screwdriver, this isn't going to be one that, you know, ends up in my tool bag or anything, but it's nice to have. Does that? No, that doesn't really work as a stand, although I suppose it would keep it from tipping over on its side there. So, all right, let's go ahead and grab the app while we're at it. So this is just the ToolSmart app. Right here on Google Play. I don't want to register. Cool. All right, so go to the toolbox. Let's make sure that this is all. All right, so first thing that I like that they did in here is it opened up. See right here where it says continue without registering? The number of times I've had to do something minor that I really don't want to register an app for and would have loved that button, I can't count. So the fact that that's there, absolutely fantastic. I'm sure that there's a downside to doing that. Either it's not going to store my tools or it's not going to let me save project histories or something, but I'm glad to see it. All right, so press and hold to turn it on. And then I'm going to go to the toolbox. I'm going to add the laser distance measure, get ready, etc. It's going to ask for various permissions that it needs. All right, and I have to press and hold the Bluetooth button to turn on Bluetooth. Couple of information slides about how to use it. All right, so let's pull it back. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. So we hit the measure button, take a measurement, and then we hit the Bluetooth button to send it to the phone, and then I can save these as results. I mean, that's fantastic. We'll cover more on the laser distance meter in a full-blown review, but just the basic stuff. Here it is. I pointed it somewhere. I hit a button. I sent my measurement to the phone. I saved it. That's beautiful. That's absolutely fantastic. Other stuff, it's not particularly heavy. It's relatively light. The construction feels relatively well done. We've got like a high density plastic rubber coating. It's got a nice smooth touch to it, very grippy, doesn't feel like it's going to slide out of your hand and drop it. Everything I would expect out of a well-designed tool. Other than the batteries, which I think may have just been it sat in the warehouse too. Oh, and it knows that it disconnected. Yeah, we're just gonna hit go back. Other than the batteries being melted, basically, which they're Sanyo's fault, not General. They're just the vendor. This thing's fantastic. So, nice little Velcro strap to go on a tool belt. So, but that's just a laser distance measurement tool. That's relatively, I'm not going to say hard to screw up, but relatively easy to do compared to some of these other ones. Okay, we're going to set this to the side because I think I may have gotten a dud. Alright, so next up, back to simple things. This is a digital angle finder. Looks like this runs on a coin cell battery, which is a bit disappointing. Just based on the size, I would have hoped this would continue to use at least AAAs. So let's go ahead. And cut this open. I'm not a huge fan of this blister pack either. This is the type of packaging that you're liable to injure yourself on. Much bigger fan of the cardboard we saw on the other items. So, let's see here. Alright, so we've got the battery itself, a little instruction book about the angle finder, 10.5-inch ruler, 5-minute auto power up or off, interior and exterior angles up to 255 degrees in seconds, plus or minus 3 degree accuracy, plus or minus 0.3 degree accuracy and a 0.1 degree resolution. Little LCD. And that's just the same stuff in Spanish. Alright, so this feels like aluminum. Little on the rougher side, you can hear it opening up, but that'll wear with age. Looks like the battery compartment is just a press and twist to open. And thankfully, this battery is in better shape since I don't have a 2032 on the shelf. This is a pretty typical 3-volt coin cell. And it looks like it installs in that direction, and then this will twist and hold it in. Alright, so I can see a bearing in the hinge. The hinge itself seems to be primarily plastic, which is kind of disappointing when the rest of the construction is aluminum. The ruler is only marked in inches, which isn't terrible for U.S. construction, but is at least noteworthy. Let's go ahead and try to connect it. Grab ToolSmart. Which we're going to continue without registering. Go to the toolbox. Oh, here. Let's close ToolSmart from where we were playing with it with the flashlight, because I think I may have locked something up. Toolbox. Angle finder, connect. All right, and just like before, it transmits the second we hit the Bluetooth button. So I'm going to open this up. And that is almost instant where it sends. And the press button to send it, by the time you've heard the click, it's on the phone. That's good. If I zero it here, it'll continue to read the angle when closed, which is good. That means you can measure the distance between two things. So I could set it here, zero it, move it in, and then see that the difference between these two is 41.5. So I'm glad to see that that works. The level that's built into it appears to be fairly accurate. I know this table itself is not quite perfectly level. And that's what I'm seeing here. The bubble's closer to one side than the other, but not too far off. And same thing with our other bubble here. We've got a nice hole built in for presumably hanging it from something. And if I zero it with it closed, I get an actual zero. So as far as the angle finder is concerned, some of the construction choices, I would have preferred that this hinge contained more aluminum. I do wonder if part of that decision was the trade-off between transferring signal to your phone, which just works right away. Are there any screws? I may pull these screws and see just what the rest of the hinge looks like on the inside. I'm sure it's a metal reinforced plastic cover in reality. And just on-off works just like you would expect it to. Now, because I turned that on and off, am I going to... Come on, there we go. If I hit try to reconnect, it reconnected. That is fantastic. So, angle finder here. This is just the unboxing, but tell me what you want to see in a review of this thing. At a glance, I'm impressed with how it worked. Yeah, just go back. It did, everything it said out of the box. Check the ruler here against my Starret that I used for drafting, and I don't see anything egregious other than the fact that it's not a full foot long. It would have been nice for this to have been a full 1 foot ruler. That said, 10 inches is still useful. It is only painted on. I would have liked to have seen that etched some because paint's going to wear. If you look at some older construction, like this is probably 20 years old at this point. It's been painted, but it's also engraved, which helps with any potential loss there. All right. Okay, so we've got another simple one. This is a pin-type digital moisture meter. They say it's the first step in mold prevention. Pin type for exact moisture content. So let's see if it says anything else interesting on it. 1 year warranty, track moisture along a wall, look for damp spots. Comes with a 9-volt battery, comes with spare pins. It looks like the spare pins were supposed to be in a little plastic baggie and have since escaped and are now floating around in the package. Measurement range 5 to 50% for wood, 1.5 to 33% for building materials. Accuracy plus or minus 2% full scale. No moisture still present. So this should open up without the knife. This is the type of assembly that I think it is. Although I still would prefer to see less plastic. That's actually not a bad way of doing it. Did I lose a pin? No, it's right here. Alright, and it comes with an itty-bitty quick start guide folded up that I probably would have sliced with my knife. Pretty straightforward. So, there's already pins installed with little protective rubbers. I actually would have rather seen these on the spare pins that are floating around. ahead and put those on here. And do a plastic peel, which I know is everybody's favorite. Pretty straightforward 9-volt compartment. Looks like you just pop it open on the one side here. That said, I think I'm actually going to, where did I set it? Use that little screwdriver. That came with the distance measurer. There we go. And it's marked positive, negative. Oh, there's plastic on this battery. Okay. And we're just going to slide the screwdriver in to pop that out. Never use a knife. You don't want to puncture the battery. So what I'm doing is just sliding this in along the side. I'm not cutting into it. No mercury, industrial, extra heavy duty, fairly soft. This is probably a zinc chloride battery. That's usually what heavy duty batteries are. Not really the greatest. So that just pushes against those contacts there. But certainly serviceable as an included battery. Looks like we've got a button to take the measurements. So your options for mode are wood and building. Fortunately, I have both, I suppose, in here. So let's go ahead and tell it we want to connect to the moisture meter. All right, and we'll start with building. So I'm just going to press it on my wall, pull the trigger. And there is 4.4% moisture. Well, that's interesting. So unlike the other tools, which only send a reading to it when you press the Bluetooth button, this sent and kept sending once I hit that button. Not bad. I actually like the other way of doing it better, since that allows you to set it, send the measurement, and then store it. So we're going to take our hold off, flip this over to wood, and measure that there is 10.6% moisture in the pallets that actually make up the base for my studio here. Overall, moisture meter, there's not a whole lot else to say about it. Looks like there is a security tag built into the shell. They hid the security tag in there. Well, no, there's a security tag there as well. So that's got a pair of contacts on it. I wonder, does that like reset the 0? Those must be. It's got little contacts on it that line up with the actual pins. That's got to be some kind of 0 measurement to calibrate it when you close it. Let's go ahead and shut it off. Press and hold to shut off. Pretty straightforward. Plus or minus 2% accuracy isn't, the greatest in the world, but isn't terrible either. The only thing I'm not seeing on this that I would have liked to have seen included is there's nowhere in the tool for me to store these extra contacts, which means that these are just going to get lost. So they might as well have not been included. I'm glad they were included, but when you fail to provide somewhere for something to be stored, that just tells me it's going to get lost. I'm actually going to pick them up. They're just on the side of my table. All right. Last simple one, or I should say last Bluetooth one. We've got a digital multimeter here. This is obviously a lot more conventional than that pocket meter we looked at. This is going to work as a normal meter without the without your phone, whereas that had no display on its own. Same stuff, measure, record, document, mobile view, 600 volt AC DC, 10 amps, pretty standard stuff for a low to mid-range meter. And once again, we've got this origami type construction. Oh, but we have things that I like. So depending on how this works, this is going to tell me a few things. So there's the manual. I've never needed a manual for a multimeter. We have a K-type thermocouple included, which once again, no good place to keep the thermocouple. We've got some pretty typical, oh god, rubber leads, lower end leads. Looks like this meter uses a 9-volt battery. How do we... Of course, that needs a Phillips screwdriver. So we'll just grab one of these little ones here. I don't like seeing that type of 9-volt lead. That's a very old way of doing things. Also, you can definitely smell the plasticizer that they used at the factory. It has that aroma that's fairly typical of imported products, which, yeah, it says it was made in China. I mean, I'm sure most of this was made, or at least a good portion of these things were made in China. I have not been keeping track. China. Yeah, so everything we've looked at was made in China, but this is the first one that's actually had that almost nosebleed-inducing odor on the plastic. Of course, oh, there we go. Let's see, did I lose the screw? No, it was still in there. Alright, so pretty typical meter. Turn it to what you're going to do. Looks like it's actually got some battery measurement stuff built in for 9 volt and 1.5 volt DC. So in fact, let's grab 1.5 volt DC battery, leave it on 1.5. And, you know, I've never used this battery before, and I'd probably put it in something out of the gate. But let's see if it's actually good. So these are labeled fairly well. Comms in the middle. Oh, there we go. That's stiff. And then basically, unless you're measuring amperage, everything is this contact on the right. So let's see. Yeah, this isn't... Oh, there we go. It's impossible with these little protective covers. That doesn't make any sense. Why would that read 0.7? Was it supposed to tell me that the battery's 70% full? Now I do need the manual. Because I also see a NCV, which is typically non-contact voltage. Okay. So let's do checking battery voltage, 13. No, that should just give me the voltage of the battery. If we do... Well. So either I grabbed a dud, or that's really a... So I'm going to grab one that I actually anticipate to read low. Yeah, okay, so I just grabbed a dead battery. Now, I don't know why they would bother giving me a special mode for that when I can just go to voltage and measure 1.3 volts on the voltage setting. I guess that makes it more user-friendly, and apparently you shouldn't grab a dead battery when you go to do that. So, non-contact voltage is not something I've seen in a meter like this before. To check whether a line is hot, touch it with the top of the meter or bring the top within a 1/4 inch of it after moving the rotary function switch to NCV. If it sounds or blinks. So this will be interesting. Alright, so we're going to move it to NCV. Yeah, okay, that works. Neat. Alright, so let's go ahead and connect it now. Turn Bluetooth on. Send the non-contact voltage data. Apparently I accidentally turned the Bluetooth off, so I think this works the same way that the humidity sensor did, or moisture meter did. Multimeter read 79. I wonder, will I get two? Ugh. And that's a good skin temp. Yeah, this works perfectly. This thermocouple's a little on the thin side, but it's not all that different from others that I've seen before. I think it's identical to the one that's in my Mastech meter. So this is a solid thermocouple. There's definitely features missing from this little meter that are present in higher end ones. So just go back. I don't see any diode testing or anything like that. And the listed specifications are fine for typical home and I'm not going to say enthusiast, but hobbyist use, but are definitely a bit below what you'd want if you're working with bare pins on the back of a BGA item that you're soldering to. I mean, so the measurement accuracy at DC is, plus or minus 0.5% of reading plus 2 digits in other ranges, plus or minus 0.8% of reading plus 5 digits in 600 volt range. So you could have voltages that are a bit outside of what you want when you really need something that's way more sensitive. These are fine if you're working on a car, if you're working just like on a bulk power supply, if you're doing residential stuff. But they're definitely hobbyist or they're not prosumer. It's not electrician level stuff. The leads that it included aren't terrible, but they're not. I don't like them. That's not to say they don't work, but they're definitely not as nice as like my non-smart meter. And even that's not necessarily a pro level meter. That's just probably, I wonder what this thing costs. This is the TSO4. Yeah, this is a $30 meter, and the one that I normally use ranges about 60. Without smart features, without the non-contact voltage, although with the temperature diode. So, this is definitely an entry-level meter. But it works. It seems to do everything it says on the tin. We'll push it through more testing. I just, tell me in the comments what kind of testing to push a multimeter through, and we'll do it. And now we have what I hope works better than the flashlight, an absolute monster. And this is a video inspection camera. Once again, we're in that origami style box. This is another Wi-Fi device, which is understandable. Did they tell me what the resolution or anything? Camera resolution 640/480. Well, that's not great, but it's on the end of a stick, so I'll give it a pass there. Uses 4 AA batteries. I hope they're in decent shape. Let's go ahead and open this up. Well, that is interesting. So we've got manual. There's the flashlight. I don't know what these are. You know what? I take that back. I know exactly what these are. So these are going to clip on the end, and it looks like we've got a hook and a magnet and a mirror for grabbing and pushing and looking at specific things, because if I put this in a pipe, it's going to look down the length of the pipe, not necessarily at the wall of the pipe. And I bet if I take a peek here, what's in the package? Number 3, 12, 13, 14. 45-degree mirror, pickup hook, and a magnetic pickup. Would you look at that? And we've got some decent-looking alkaline batteries. A little bummed it didn't come with a screwdriver. Although the slotted driver works just fine. This is a relatively large Phillips. I take that back. The slotted driver does not work fine. I don't want to strip it. Is this bigger than the other Phillips that I've got here? It is. Okay. Alright, pretty interesting compartment design. The batteries don't all just go in the compartment, they go in this module. Bust open the packaging. So they go in this module, and then the module gets installed, and that actually provides the contacts for it. All right. And then we just button this up. Turn it on. Do our peel. And let's see here. So I can tweak the brightness on that, and I think, what am I looking for? So there's a, is this a touch screen? No. There's no functions on the trigger. So let's go ahead and press and hold that Wi-Fi button and hope something happened. All right, so now it shows up as ToolSmart iBorescope, but the password's missing. That's the wrong manual. So let's see if they tell me what the password is. Specifications, operating. Page 6. The default password is 12345. Okay. Connect. And just while we're waiting, so we've got a little camera. 640-480 is not great. It's not terrible for this type of camera. Let's go ahead and jump into ToolSmart. We're done playing with the multimeter. This is the video inspection camera. And would you look at that? It's working. So here on the, so let's put me on it. So we can see my green screen behind me. Hit this button, do a video record. I'm sure there's no audio in it, and I'm upside down. But as you can see, the camera, doesn't hold a candle to the 4K camera that I normally use. This is a relatively well-lit environment. I've got its light off. If I turn its light on, it doesn't really impact anything here. This would normally be used for inspection type scenarios. You can drill a hole in something and slide this in there. You can snake it through a pipe or a drain and see what a blockage is, so you can determine what you're going to do. The length here is, it says it's a 3-foot length. That module gets a little bit on the warm side when the light's on, but seems okay otherwise. Overall, it does what it says on the box. I'm fairly pleased with the construction. It's mostly plastic and rubber, but the camera itself here is a nice metal braid. So can I grab this and twist it like that? Yeah. So it's a nice metal braid and it seems to work fine. Overall, let's go ahead and bring the zoom back to 1x. I wonder if that recorded zoomed or if it recorded full and just showed me zoomed. I'll find out when it's done. Sending data to and from the phone, pretty straightforward. I stop recording here. Now I've got a gallery where it appears to be processing it still. I doubt there's a microphone in it. All right, so now what I don't see is a good way to share it. Oh, that's just this little hook. So it's got a little hook on there for hanging it. That's a nice touch. I'm going to go ahead and shut it off. That's not bad. It works. I'd like to see a way to share these, and I wonder. Let's go into the video inspection camera. Use without connecting. Huh. Did it save it just... in my device folders? No, I don't see it in the device folders. I'm going to have to look around a little bit more and see where that is. Being able to share that is going to be a huge bonus to having a connected borescope like that. And we'll have to check back on the flashlight in a little bit. All right, we've looked at all the other tools at this point. I want to loop back to the flashlight that I was having issues with. I took some time to reach out to General. So this is actually, a couple of days later at this point. And basically the conclusion was that I got sent a dud. There's a couple of other people who've experienced the same thing with the flashlight specifically. And so I want to make two basic different statements about this before I really get into the flashlight. Number one, General's response was entirely appropriate, and I don't fault them for that at all. I said, hey, I got this, it's defective, and they replaced it. Perfect. That's the kind of thing that I expect out of any company as far as customer service is concerned. Number two, although I'm going to say that I'm not particularly impressed with the quality control on the TS07 based on what I saw. There's plenty of other people who had issues with it. All the other tools were fine. They showed up. There were no issues with them. The batteries in my distance meter had gone bad, but that's on Sanyo. That's not on General. General didn't make the AAA batteries themselves, so I wouldn't judge the whole lineup of tools because this one appears to have some potential defect. Everybody has a bad design here and there. That said, now that I've got it, let's go ahead and take a look at it. So, we've got all the same brightness modes we had before. Things like SOS signals and whatnot. And then we've got the... So, all the flashlight stuff's pretty straightforward. In fact, let me cut my studio lighting here. And hey, that's kind of dark, although, so this is, not as bright as my Surface of the Sun studio lights, but still pretty decent, actually to the point where it's washing some of this out on the camera because there is no other lighting in here. So overall, pretty bright. It's rated for, I believe it said 800 lumens on the package. That puts it in line with a typical 60-watt bulb, and we have, I'm going to say, about 5,000, maybe 6,000 Kelvin on the color temp for the light here. So let's go ahead and bring the rest of this back on. All right, so that's back. Turn that off for a second. So what wasn't happening before is the way this is supposed to work is you press and hold this button. The green light tells you the Wi-Fi is on. and it should have gone blue into a pairing mode. Oh, god damn it. So, apparently, I could not see the LED at this angle. You press and hold this button for 3 seconds to turn on the camera head and generate a local Wi-Fi network. So 1, 2, 3, green light. And there's our Wi-Fi network. And then this generates a Wi-Fi network with the same SID as the other inspection camera. So it still shows up as IP borescope. But there's no password on the network generated by the flashlight. Once that's connected, you can go to ToolSmart. You can say, I have the flashlight inspection camera, connect to it, and here it is. And we get decent performance over Wi-Fi, so I'm going to go ahead and start recording. It's a pretty typical... If you've ever used some of the cheaper action cameras over a wireless network before, this is about the same type of performance. It looks like I'm getting a little bit of banding on the camera due to the LED lighting in my studio, and it doesn't have any ability to adjust that. We can see it's pretty responsive to motion, deals decently with its own reflections. I'm going to say not as good as my studio camera here, but, you know, what can I ask for out of a flashlight? I pressed the wrong button. So, let's go ahead and start recording again. Well, and this is the downfall of Wi-Fi connected devices. The second I pressed the wrong button, I turned off the Wi-Fi on the flashlight, and the second I did that, my phone went back to my home network, and what I had wanted to do was bring the brightness down as I was recording. Huh. Does that happen every time I adjust the brightness? Maybe I didn't press the wrong button. So, some of the operating modes for the LEDs seem to... Yeah, there we go. Potentially cause RF interference. There it is working again. So, I don't know. It works well enough. It's a little on the fussier side. I will take time to charge it and see if maybe, maybe it's fighting with me a little bit because it's not fully charged. I do like the charging mechanism, the pin charger right there in the side of the body. Out of all of the ToolSmart items, this is the one that was the most fussy. And what I mean by that is that all of the other items, and just the unboxing and quick tour basically worked. There's a couple of things that I'll talk about that I've noticed in the full review that I think could have been done better, but all the items did what they were supposed to. Even the other Wi-Fi device, the IP borescope, worked as intended. So the TS07 here, maybe it's dead, or dying, I should say, and I'll charge it. And if that's the case, we'll cover that in the full review when I've used these for a couple of weeks and had a chance to, put them to the test and use them as intended and actually build something with them. But the TS07 is definitely a little on the fussy side, at minimum. All that said, I know this has been an absolutely huge unboxing. Maybe I should have done this live. If you guys would have liked to have seen this done live, let me know in the comments below, and we'll try and make an announcement and do a live stream next time I have a lineup like this to look through. With all of that being said, I want to thank Electrix for providing our opening and closing themes. I also want to thank our patrons for their support and helping make some of this possible. And if anyone has any questions, or if there's something you want to see me try with some of these specifically, and some of these, are going to make appearances during some of our other videos as time goes on, let me know in the comments below, and we'll do our best to either include that when we do the review or just answer your question in the comments as it is. So with all that being said, thank you for watching.